Congratulations for making it to the final section of this course, which looks at lock and tag systems. These are used throughout the electrical network and are of particular importance for site electrical systems, where they are used to control access to and operation of the electrical network. The aims of the course are to define what a lock and tag system is, to see how we create a lock and tag system, to show how we use a lock and tag system on a site electrical system, a lock and tag system is used to control who can access electrical equipment or systems and allows for the safe energization, operation, and maintenance of those electrical systems. On site electrical systems, we use lock and tag systems to achieve the following: to lock off live electrical equipment and make sure that only the competent electrical person has access, to allow the competent electrical person to lock off electrical systems when they need to be maintained, repaired, or modified, to allow the competent electrical person to energize a system for the first time in a safe, controlled manner. We will cover these three scenarios in the remaining parts of this section. All enclosures and isolation points must have a numbered padlock and electrician's tag. Each padlock should be numbered and have a unique key which only opens that lock. If you use a hasp, multiple padlocks can be applied to the same enclosure. All padlock keys should be kept in a lock key cabinet in the electrical competent person's office. The tag should be completed with the electrical competent person's name and contact details. Here we have a typical site electrical system. To prevent unauthorized access to the electrical equipment, all of the electrical housings, boards and enclosures must be permanently locked closed using a key or electrician's tag and padlock. The competent electrical person needs to take control of their electrical system and make sure that no one else can access any live terminals or equipments, make any modifications, or put themselves in harm's way. The only way to achieve this is by locking off all electrical enclosures. We also need to be able to isolate equipment when they need to be taken out of service for repair or maintenance. Let's look at a typical site system. To work on the sub-distribution boards, we need to be able to lock off the incomers. To repair or work on the distribution cabling, we need to be able to lock off the feeder circuit breakers. To work on the main distribution boards, we need to be able to lock off the incomers. To isolate the site electrical system, we need to be able to lock off the site isolation switch. To work on the generator, we need to be able to lock it in the off position. Isolation points for the electrical system are important and need to be considered when the system is designed. Most modern circuit breakers are supplied with a hasp or insert, which allows them to be locked off and isolated in the open position. When we'll energize an electrical system for the first time, we need to follow a set procedure to ensure that no personnel are put in danger. These are the steps to follow. Step 1 is testing. Step 2 is planning. Step 3 is isolation and labeling. Step 4 is energization and monitoring. And finally, step 5 is final configuration. Firstly, we need to make sure that all equipments to be energized are tested as per the approved inspection and test plan, manufacturer's recommendations, and agreed standards. We start with the smallest element first, move on to the larger elements, then test the full system functionality. All of the tests should be witnessed and recorded as per the agreed procedures. When the tests are completed, the competent electrical person shall certify that the system is ready for energization. Step 2 is planning. The competent electrical person shall now review the full electrical system and agree how it can be energized safely. The review shall decide the isolation points for the equipment, the phase sequence of the energization, and what checks need to be done during the energization. This plan should be written down so that there is no confusion later. Step 3 is isolation and labeling. The competent electrical person shall use a lock and tag system to lock off all of the agreed isolation points. All equipment enclosures are to be locked using a lock and tag system. All equipment to be energized is to be labeled with Danger Live Equipment labels. Step 4 is energization and monitoring. The competent electrical person shall check that the equipments to be energized are ready and that personnel are clear of the area. The competent electrical person shall then remove the isolation locks and tags for the equipment to be energized and energize the electrical system in the agreed sequence and in a controlled way. The competent person shall now inspect the energized equipment to check for any damage and do the necessary measurements. Step 5 is final configuration. Once the full system has been energized, the competent electrical person shall configure the final system as per the site requirements. All circuits not in use should be locked closed using a lock and tag system. All electrical enclosures and equipment doors shall also be locked closed using a lock and tag system. Let's see how we would safely energize our site electrical system in a controlled way for the first time. Here's our site electrical system from before. Firstly, the competent electrical person shall use a lock and tag system to lock off all of the agreed isolation points. Energize the generator, check it's running correctly, and measure the voltage and frequency. We then close the isolation switch and check that the connecting cables are carrying the voltage. Next, we close the incomer circuit breaker and check that it energizes the bus bar. Then, open and close the circuit breaker a few times to check that it's fully operational. We then close and operate the feeder breakers and check that they operate correctly and that the cables can carry the voltage. Finally, we close and operate the incomer circuit breakers in turn and check that they energize the bus bars. Once the system's fully energized, we then lock and isolate all unused equipment for the final configuration. Let's summarise what we've learned today. All electrical enclosures and equipment doors should be kept locked and controlled using a lock and tag system. Isolation points should be defined throughout the electrical system so that the equipment can be disconnected and locked off for maintenance, repair or modification. When the electrical systems are energised for the first time, this should be done in a controlled and planned way under the supervision of the electrical competent person. Well done for completing the electrical power equipment course. I hope you now understand all of the basic elements of the construction site electrical power network, which will allow you to install your own network safely and check that networks installed by others are done correctly. See you on the next course.